Hey guys, it's Adrienne. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here to bring you a spoiler-free book review and a spoiler-ish movie review of A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. Don't worry, I'll let you know when things get spoilery. So let's start off by talking about the book. I've already mentioned this, I think, in my January wrap-up. For those of you who don't know, it follows a little boy named Connor, and Connor is going through a very difficult time in life. His mother is very ill with cancer, and he's being bullied at school, and he's been kind of betrayed by one of his best friends, and he has to go live with his grandmother that he just doesn't like. So he's going through this outrageously difficult time for a little boy. For an adult too, actually. Connor is haunted by these nightmares until one day he's visited by a monster, but it's not the monster he expected to see from his nightmares. It's another monster, and this monster comes to tell him 3 stories with the expectation that when his 3 stories are done, Connor will tell him his 4th story about the secret that he's been hiding. The story is very beautiful, but I do have some opinions about the book that I want to talk to you about. I talked about this book a couple times already, but let me get into it quickly in a little bit more detail. First of all, let's talk about the plot. Obviously, it was very well written, very beautiful, very touching, but definitely slow. I felt like the plot kind of dragged. If it wasn't a short story, I don't know that I would have actually finished it. And another thing about the plot is that I kind of expected to cry. Like, books don't usually make me cry, and I keep looking for a book that will make me cry. That being said, if you know any, leave them in the comments below. But I don't really cry in books. I don't really cry in movies either. That being said, at the end of the book, I did feel sad. It was definitely a sad story, but I felt hopeless. I feel like when there's a sad story, there should be a little bit of hope. Now, going back through the story before I watched the movie, there definitely was little glimpses of hope, but it still made me feel a little bit hopeless. The characters were definitely relatable. I loved the monster. I thought he did a great job. He was a little violent for me for a kid's story, because I kind of went in this expecting that my 8-year-old daughter could also read this, but it's definitely not for the younger children, because he was kind of violent at times, and there was definitely reasons. I'm not saying that he shouldn't have done these things, because the way that he spoke to Connor definitely is definitely what Connor needed to hear, and the things that happened is, I think, definitely things that Connor needed to go through and experience. He needed to experience that the emotions that he was feeling was okay. So I'm not knocking that at all. I just felt like it definitely wasn't a small child's book, let's just say that. And I loved that every character had their own little piece of the story. Every character was going through their own sets of emotions, and as an adult, I can see the emotions that his grandma was going through. I can see the emotions that his dad was going through. I can see the emotions that he and his mom are going through, and I thought it was so beautiful. So when I finished this book, my first reaction was to give it a 3 stars, because I didn't like it that much, because it left me feeling hopeless, and because it didn't live up to the expectations that I had. But I ended up taking a step back and reevaluating it and thinking about it. Why am I giving it a 3-star rating? Is it because I feel hopeless? Is it because it was slow burning? Is it because it was a fast paced? What did I like and what didn't I like about the story? And I found out that I liked a lot more about the story than I thought I would. And it made me think about the way that I've been reading books. Why does every book have to be a fast-paced book? Why does every single book have to be filled with action? Because this book was slow burning, but the days that Connor went through taking care of his mom and the emotions that he felt would have been slow. They wouldn't have been fast-paced. Your life isn't full of action when you're going through all these emotions and difficult times, having to deal with a sick and dying parent. So I think that I was a little bit wrong when I jumped to the conclusion that I didn't like the book because it was slow burning. And then at the end of the book, when I stopped reading the book and found myself feeling hopeless, I thought, again, like I said earlier, there were definitely little glimpses of hope that we found through the book. But the thing that got me the most, that made me question myself the most, is that not every story has to be wrapped up neat and have a happy ending. Not every story has a happy ending. Not everything in life works out the way that we want it to. And I understand that when we read books, we're oftentimes looking for that escapism from life that we feel, and we want things to turn out differently than they are right now. So basically, all of that to say, when I took a step back from this book, when I looked at the things that I didn't like and why I didn't like them, I actually found out that I did really love this book. I think that the problems that I were finding with the book were not problems with the book, they were mostly problems with myself. And so I ended up giving this book, instead of a 3 stars, I gave it a 4 stars. And I really would like to reread the book again, and especially after I've seen the movie, and see what kind of a rating I'd give it in that case. Knowing the things that I know now, looking back at the story, I'd like to see how I would re-rate this book. So I definitely, before the year is over, I want to reread this book. Moving on to the movie. I have a few things that I want to talk to you about the movie, and this will definitely have spoilers. So if you haven't read the book yet, go read the book. If you haven't seen the movie yet, I think you'll be okay, but just in case, you may not want to watch this. Basically, the movie was so much like the book that I really appreciated it. Patrick Ness wrote the screenplay, and a lot of times when authors write screenplays, still the movie veers away from the book a little bit. I feel like Patrick Ness added things to the movie that only made the story better. There were a few differences that I will talk about. Some of them I liked, some of them I didn't like. But all in all, I think this was a really great movie, and I would definitely recommend seeing the movie if you've read the book. The first thing that I saw in the movie that was a little different than the book that I already automatically appreciated was the fact that we saw that Connor's mom also lost her dad. It just kind of brought this bit of, I know what you're going through, son, kind of feel to the story. One of the things that bugged me in the first part of the movie that kind of made me think, if you hadn't read the story, why would this make any sense, was that in the book, we are introduced to Connor and his nightmares, and in his nightmares he has this horrific monster that is way worse than the monster that comes to visit him to tell him stories. So he's not scared of this monster because he's already met far worse. But when Connor meets the monster in the movie, we haven't seen that monster yet. And so he's just like, I'm not scared of you. Well, what the heck? If I was 13 years old and a tree monster came to my room, I'd probably crap my pants. So why is he not afraid? I understand that he wants to protect his mom, but still, nonetheless, I would be petrified. I'd be petrified even if I had seen a big, ugly monster beforehand. But at least it would have given me a reason to think, if he thinks he's dreaming, he's had this nightmare about a big, ugly monster, a big, terrible, mean, bad guy monster, and then he sees this monster. In dream world, I can understand that he wouldn't be afraid. One of the things that I loved about the movie was the use of art. So Connor and his mom have the same artistic abilities. They can draw and they use watercolors, and that comes through in the book. And especially because the book itself is so beautiful with all these artsy drawings that are absolutely stunning, by the way. I feel like bringing in the art a little bit more in the movie was so well done. I loved that the monster stories were told through watercolor. I loved that Connor and his mother had this shared love for art, which kind of brings their relationship a little closer than it does in the book. It just speaks to me. I love artsy things, so when I found this in the movie, I was so excited. I thought it was so beautiful. One of the other things that I'm not entirely sure if I missed, I could have completely totally missed it, so if I did, please leave it in the comments below. But I felt like in the book, the mom was always commenting about the yew tree, and I didn't hear that as much in the movie, so I kind of missed it a little bit. Maybe she did, maybe, like I said, maybe I just missed it, but that connection I kind of lost. Now what I did like about the movie was that Connor and his mom have both seen the monster. In the book, I suspected it because she kept talking about the yew tree. She kept mentioning the yew tree and its healing powers, and in my mind, after reading the book, I was thinking the mom, she had to have seen this monster before, but it was never really clear. In the end of the book, you see the mother looking at the monster, and she gets kind of this recognition across her face, like, I've seen you, thank you for taking care of my son. And then the last thing I'm going to talk to you about is the very beginning and the very end of the movie. In the very beginning of the movie, we see Connor's nightmare. We see that he lets go of his mom. And we don't hear why, so we don't know what the deal is. Like, could he just not hold on? What's the reason that he let go? We find out that through the stories like we did in the book. But right away, I was like, oh no, you saw him let go of his mom. Isn't that the whole point of the story? So it was a little disappointing. But on the other end of the spectrum, we saw an epilogue. And the epilogue left me a little bit of hope that I was missing as Connor's flipping through his mother's book. And he finds out that his mom has seen this monster too, and I thought that there was just a beautiful ending that did leave me with a little glimpse of hope. All in all, guys, I really enjoyed the book and I really enjoyed the movie. They were both slow burning, so if you're really not a thing, you may not like them, but I would really suggest give them a try because they're not my kind of thing either, but I really did enjoy them. Alright guys, that wraps it up for today's spoiler-free book review and movie review. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you haven't already, I'd love it if you subscribe. And in case you've missed any of the announcements or any of the videos, which I can't imagine you have if you follow me at all, but I am hosting Caraval read-along. It's still going on and it's not too late to check it out. So go check that out up here, and you can also find a similar video from Kim from WriterPrincess down in the description box because we're doing this together. That wraps it up for today, guys. Thanks for watching and see you next time. Bye.